Okay, welcome to the 139th edition of the MMA Circus here on BloodyElbow.com and live on YouTube. My name's Nick Baldwin. He is Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, and as always, we are your hosts for today. Andrew, it's been a couple weeks. How's it going?
You always say a couple weeks, and I know we've debated this before, but I only missed 1 week.
Yeah, but it's been a couple weeks because we talked 14 days ago to this day.
I guess you're right. And the proper definition of a couple is two. So there's been a couple of weeks, two sets of weeks that it has been since we've talked.
Bingo.
I mean, I wish that there was 4 sets of weeks between when we talked.
That's been the case before, you know.
I'm going to let the viewers a little bit behind the scenes here, but you're a little tiffy today. Usually it's me who's running late. Normally me. This is my job to be the late guy. You today, You're scrambling over there. You're rushing.
I showed up on time. I was 5 minutes ahead of time.
Oh, let's no. We can review the tape, but I'm gonna go with 3 minutes.
We went live on time, 6:30 my time on the dot, 7:30 your time on the dot. No complaints. No reason to complain.
Forgetting you're in the central time zone.
Winnipeg, baby.
That lonely prairie of Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's always hilarious. Just the other day, I saw a car commercial, or there was a truck. It's like Dodge Ram, the best truck for the prairies, and I'm thinking, yeah, I guess, yeah, no one else sees this except for me, and that's about it.
What would you do with the pickup truck?
Carry snow. House to house.
It's all around you. You could just go outside. Why would you need to bring it places?
Maybe because Dana White got snow imported to his house one year.
I'm aware.
Remember this? You remember?
I thought it was imported. What I'm gonna imagine is they just had snow making machines turned on.
Okay, that makes more sense, much more sense. Because I wonder. I was about to say, oh, I would be a truck driver for Dana, bring snow down to his Vegas home. But then I realized, hey, I'm gonna hit a place, maybe the border, a little ways down, where it's just gonna stop, or it's just gonna melt. I'm not gonna make Vegas with the truck truckload
with a truck full of snow. That's not gonna happen.
I mean, if Dana wants some water, if Dana's running low on water, then sure. But
yeah, you're gonna have a little portable pool back there. You're gonna have a little pool party in the back of your truck,
all alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So this is a good segue into weather at the Winnipeg. What's going on there? I'm gonna guess there's 3 feet of snow that's constantly on the ground by now.
Honestly, no. Not tons of snow. When you think
weather?
of Winnipeg in almost December, there's less snow than that. Weather's not terrible. Weather's actually pretty good. We're sitting at, well, actually, it's still pretty bad. It's 18 degrees Fahrenheit right now.
Oh my goodness gracious! No, that's intolerable. That's negative. Yeah, man, that's so cold. Today. Yeah. I've been noticing how.
Oh no, it's actually a bit less than that. Hold on.
It's actually worse than that horrible ass scenario. I was noticing today how cold it had gotten yesterday, and the weather yesterday was 45, which is 6 degrees Celsius, 7 degrees Celsius.
It's actually 14, but it feels like 7.
Fuck.
So take that for what's that
7
worth.
Fahrenheit.
But yesterday it was actually really nice though. It was almost you don't need a winter jacket on weather. But now it got cold again, and the roads, at least where my street where
ice.
Not a lot of people drive, ice.
Of course, you get them snowbanks. They melt. Come on. That's the most dangerous time to drive when you're around New York City. I always feel is the early spring when the thaw sets in and the snow that's been built up coats the thing. That black ice, it gets you. It's 52 degrees right now at nightment.
Indian summer's back in New York City.
Tomorrow's supposed to be 60. That's what they're saying. 60 and sunny.
But climate change is not a thing.
I guess, for real, it's a thing. Yeah, it's gonna be 50 degrees. It's gonna be 50 degrees the whole week.
Yes.
55 some, 56 some.
How was your Thanksgiving? Last Thursday was just another day for us Canadians. We like to celebrate Thanksgiving a month prior, but you had a good one?
Well, when you live in the Arctic tundra, the harvest is earlier. So if they waited, if the pilgrims had waited that late in Canada, they all would have died.
There's probably, if you go back hundreds of years, there's probably some truth to that.
I'm imagining so. Thanksgiving was all right. We did it at the in-laws. They're sweet people, far and wide. It's always tough for me because
so that must have meant Thanksgiving was terrible this year.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like everyone has to like be so goddamn nice all the time. Yeah, although God bless her heart, my mother-in-law cooks the driest turkey that you've ever ate in your entire life.
Really?
I've offered
turkey is usually pretty dry, but like when turkey's over dry, that's bad.
Oh, everyone knows turkey's dry. That's why turkey's a shitty meat to eat. Let's just be honest.
I honestly disagree. I saw someone tweet that as well, and I saw that I'm like, hey, people don't actually like.
How many days besides Thanksgiving do you eat turkey?
Not too often. It's a good point.
It's
but
a fair
more
point,
than
isn't it? It's just
I
big,
turkey.
unwieldy aspert. Yeah, you eat like turkey in a sandwich, like in turkey slices from the deli, and that's just like because that's
not the processed, almost plastic stuff, like real turkey.
Hold on. So your mother cooks a turkey regularly, and then you just chop off pieces of it?
Well, we actually, true story. We had a turkey a week before Thanksgiving, and then another one the week after.
What? Yeah, like the Baldwins are the only family that will just like eat turkey.
I told you we eat turkey on. I mean, not too often, but not just Thanksgiving. Once in a while.
Go to the grocery store and try to even buy a turkey when it's not Thanksgiving. It's fucking impossible. Why? Because people don't like fucking turkey. Turkey's whack, man. Chicken makes sense. It stays juicy and flavorful.
Chicken and turkey, I mean, other than the juice factor, is pretty.
It's the most important fucking factor, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah.
Come on, man. There's been some thought put into this. So yeah, but like turkey's already dry. That's why like everyone has like strategies for keeping turkey moist. And this lady needs all the strategies. It was the driest. Every year it's drier too, by like some miracle.
Sure. Right. That's interesting. I guess that's another reason why going to your own parents would be better. Last Friday, did you celebrate Black Friday or Buy Nothing Day?
Fuck no, man. If you buy anything on Black Friday, you are the worst type of person. Fuck you. Now, a caveat, you can buy some shit on the internet, of course.
Yep. The only thing, I didn't buy anything, including online, on Black Friday. So I take pride in that because, I mean...
I was going to buy some plane tickets because, like, I got a good deal, and then I'm like, what the fuck? Fuck it, I'll just buy them. I don't know if I want to travel and when yet.
I'd almost be embarrassed if someone was like, hey, Nick, did you go shop to the drop on Black Friday? Yeah, I did. I got some good deals. But
that is the proper instinct, Nicholas. Yeah, you should be embarrassed for being a Black Friday shopper. That you're Nicholas, most of the time you're so fucking far off base that I think your whole entire generation should just be euthanized. But when you say things like this,
they should be.
There's hope.
Everybody goes Black Friday shop. I'm like, you don't need. If this was not on 25% off, you would not be buying that pair of jeans this day. You would never be buying that pair of jeans.
You may be the only person with half a brain in all of the Winnipeg.
The only thing I bought on Cyber Monday, so completely went against Black Friday. Bought one thing online from Amazon on Cyber Monday yesterday. That was actually a light for these video shows. So I know someone went on our last week's show and commented, your screen, your camera's a little light or a little yellow, and that's true. Like, this is a white shirt, and to me it looks a bit yellow on my camera.
You're constantly yellow to me. I've always just assumed you had jaundice.
Yeah. I think I did when I was a baby, though. True story.
None of that surprises me.
It's all natural. But yeah,
so you look yellow, but I look like unnaturally pale. So we have a lot of coloring issues in this show.
So I did buy a light, a proper camera light. So hopefully that'll fix that. Although I'm not repainting my walls, and I assume.
Although you for sure should. It looks like ketchup and mustard back there.
That's actually orange, so.
Well, yeah, that's the yellowing, I guess. But hey, guys, complaining on YouTube, but the color of Nicholas's room, boom, right there.
But yeah, so actually, shout out to James Lynch because I bought the exact same light he has used for 2 years, so it's worked for him.
All of the technical equipment here could not happen without James Lynch. The microphone,
no, on my mic I got on my own. You didn't. You went off Lynch.
Oh no, I just said, hey, James Lynch, what do you got? You sound
exactly. But I went out and did the research on my own.
Oh, look, the award's in the mail, brother.
Do you know what the Grey Cup is?
Yeah, it's the Super Bowl for Canadian football.
I find it hilarious how the Super Bowl is such a big deal and no one knows what the Grey Cup is.
Everyone in America, I like more than any other Canadian sporting event, more people will know what the Grey Cup is than anything else.
They don't care about the Grey Cup. Like people in Canada.
Why would anyone give a fuck about the Grey Cup?
I know, it just shows how no one cares about Canada compared to the States. It's the same as
it's subpar football. It's not as good as football. It's college football is kind of better than the Grey Cup.
Yeah, I could not care less about college football. If I was an American, I probably would, but
no, college football, that's for people who are like divorced and just like will never have sex with a woman again in their lives. So, like if you watch college football religiously, you've packed it in. You've quit.
Why is that?
It's just such a loser thing. There's just so many teams. It's just fuck college football. Stupid fucking sport.
Speaking of college sports, the only reason I like March Madness is because you fill the bracket and
exactly. They need a gimmick. They need some stupid ass gimmick to make you care.
Right.
No one's watched a single fucking game until Match Madness happens. Then they filled out a stupid office bracket. So they're like, I really think East Marquez is going to be the team to beat this year. Shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about.
This past March was the first time I had ever filled out a March Madness bracket. I think I watched like a half of one game because that was the game where it's like it would decide whether I would win or completely lose.
Hey, guess what? College basketball sucks. Fuck college basketball. They score like 60 points in their stupid ass halves and shit.
Being honest,
NBA basketball is fucking dope compared to fuck college kids watching shit. I gotta watch your college kids. What, you're gonna watch high school shit next? I want to watch like children do shit. Fuck that, man.
Eventually, my school's football team is gonna have a huge crowd because high school football is a new thing. I don't understand it. Like I'm whatever. I don't.
Well, you should play college. You should play high school football. That's fun.
No, if you're playing, that's yeah, of course.
But if you were in a high school football game, you're like, Andrew, come watch my high school football game. I'd laugh in your face.
Yeah, you'd be like, anything I could do in even anything staying home and playing video games or reading comics.
Work for minimum wage.
Literally. Sitting on the couch, staring at a white wall for 2 hours straight is probably more productive than watching high school football.
Much more fun. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now that we got that covered, let's talk a little MMA. We covered college basketball, football, etc., even high school football.
Jesus Christ.
Let's talk a little bit about MMA, just because there's actually quite a bit to cover.
Holy
a lot
shit
has gone on. We had a weekend where there wasn't a ton of MMA. The Bellator card, I don't think there was one. No, there was late last week, but it was bad card, no Adelahat, whatever. The UFC card was the worst card of the year on paper. It actually was, some good fights, some good finishes, and the main event, well, it sort of was what we expected. We also had one championship. Ben Askren retired. So we'll talk about some of this. We'll start it with UFC Shanghai. Went down at the very early hours of Saturday morning. We had Kelvin Gastelum getting the first-round knockout win over former middleweight champion Michael "The Count" Bisping. Impressive performance from Gastelum, but if you're at all surprised by this, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I was quite confident in Gastelum to knock out Bisping within 10 minutes.
How dare they not listen to you, Nicholas?
What is that?
I said, how dare they not listen to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not just listening to me, though, if we're being honest. Like, if you weren't picking Gastelum inside the distance at the very least, I mean, I guess that's called going out on the limb, and I don't understand how you could have seen Bisping win this fight. It was
there was a path to victory for Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping could have been more of an outfighter and fought on the outside a little bit better. I feel like he really didn't spend enough time game planning for this, and I think Jason Perillo probably could have drilled in a game plan. I wonder how much Michael actually even got in the gym and trained about it, but. So
it really seemed like a fight where Bisping literally was just there for the money. It wasn't like he was smiling. It's nice to see, but when he started fighting, you just got this sense that he doesn't really know what to do even.
Well, yeah, he was just out there. Well, he was just out there banging, and that was probably the worst thing he could have done. He could have been an outside fighter, tried to use outpoint him and be savvy. I think he would have lost in that game plan, but it gave him a shot. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't really see how this could have really gone many other ways besides Calvin winning. The vast probability of this fight was Calvin winning, for sure. Yeah. But Michael could have won. Calvin's lost to full-sized.
Yes, the big difference. You're thinking Chris Weidman. The big difference. Weidman can bully Gastelum, and that's what happened because he's a very good wrestler. Bisping isn't known for his. Bisping was not going to go in and sit on top of Gastelum and either choke him out or grind him out for a decision. There was no chance of that happening. So that was the huge difference. Sure, Bisping was 4 inches taller and had a reach advantage, but when you're two strikers basically and standing on the feet, Gastelum's so good at getting inside someone's reach. He's had to deal with that before. So that the size here wasn't.
So it made sense. You're saying that he was a minus 250 or whatever the hell he came off at by the start of the fight. You know, yeah, everyone kind of saw this coming.
Yes, I would hope so. There's an interesting angle here. Like we said before the fight, well, actually, you weren't here last week, but I would assume you sort of shared the same sentiment, is that Bisping probably shouldn't be fighting or in this fight. Would you agree with that or no?
Yeah, man. Why aren't you fighting old people? Don't fight young people. Old-aged fighters who used to be good. And I'm sorry, but Michael Bisping is one of those used to be good fighters. Yeah, I know he beat Anderson Silva. Yeah, he beat a washed-up ass Anderson Silva. Oh, he beat Dan Henderson? If he beat Dan Henderson again, he might die. If you're getting cracked that bad by a guy with limited skill sets like Dan Henderson, what do you think a really, really savvy, growing, developing, beast like fucking Kelvin Gastelum's going to do to you? Except for fucking shut your lights off within, the first round. So, yeah. I think Bisping kind of knew what the deal was here. He got half a paycheck when he fought GSP and was like, I'd like that little caveat. The UFC probably made it worth his while and threw some extra $100K on it.
Of course.
He's like, I'll take that, to the retirement fund all day, and I'm still going to get my fucking London fight. Fuck all you guys.
I would think he's probably walking away with an extra $1 million for this one. If probably $500K flat and sponsorships and under the table stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I have to think probably to make that walk, and he knew that the UFC was desperate for someone in China. This was a big event for the UFC. But that's the one thing people don't.
Well, and for China, it was sold out, I think.
It's not big for China. China is a multi-millions of people. They hardly knew that it gave a fuck that it happened.
You have inside sources out of China.
Well, no, it's this did not permeate Chinese culture. The average Chinese person doesn't know what the fuck a UFC is.
It was a debut in mainland China. It was sold.
But there's a part of Chinese, there's a burgeoning middle class, if you could call it that. It's this really upper middle class of rich Chinese people who want to be entertained. And that's exactly the type of market they're trying to service. This is a great event for them. It sold 100,000 tickets. It's a small arena, but now it's a sellout for them. And you had big wins by a lot of Chinese fighters. The Lychee man, I love that the Leech used to be the most boring fighter in the world, and now he's just a straight Wanderlei Silva brawler. It's fantastic. I love that happened. You had Kenyon Song. He got a first-round knockout and just basically walked up to Bobby Nash and fucked him up in I think it was under 30 seconds.
15,
a submission win by Yadong Song before that on the undercard. So, there were some Chinese fighters that lost, but I think there's some spots that people could look at and be like, hey, that's a very encouraging thing. And then that female fighter too, their big female fighter, Yan, she won a decision victory. Granted, it was over Caitlin Curran, but
Right. Yeah. Overall, it was a good card, and the fact that I woke up at 5 a.m. and caught half of it, got some good finishes, some decent fights, and watched what needed to be watched before that. It was good. Zabit Magomed Sharipov made a second fight. That guy is
hype train.
Yes. Hop on the bandwagon now if you're not already on it. Just because I think this guy goes pretty far. The guy is really, really talented. He dominated.
They're gonna make him fight Max Holloway in 2 fights, and Max is gonna 1-2 piece up his face.
I feel like some people right now would probably pick Magomed Sharipov. I'm not, that quite on the bandwagon. He's not quite there, but give him a bit of time. I think he could be,
he could be fun. He could be a fun contender, but I don't think he's doing shit in the title picture for Max Holloway's such a young champion, and he's a special dude. I don't think people realize it quite yet.
What is next for Michael Bisping? He said before the Gastelum fight that he wants the London. He wants
he's gonna get the London fight. Yeah,
and that will be his swan song. He'll retire afterwards. But I don't think he should fight on London. That's in what a few months, like that. We're talking
maybe
March 17th. So 3 months or whatever. That's a bit close.
I'd much rather do something later on in the year. I think on the MMA Hour, Ariel Hawani suggested that they do like a Manchester show for him in like something like October. Give him tons of time to rest from the
Give
KO.
him like almost a year, and I think
now
that's good.
That makes sense. You know, that KO was brutal. That was one of those like crumpled up, turned his neck, the whole fucking, you know, base of the brain getting the whole torque tweak, and those KOs are brutal to the body. Like your brain doesn't recover from that. The truth is though, is he really gonna like substantially like get a healthier brain by waiting until October? I'm not sure that we know that for a fact. So like, whatever. You know what? If he does this London fight, I'm not going to be some crying ass person being like, "Oh, Michael Bisping's brain." Michael Bisping doesn't give a fuck about his own brain, so why the hell do we give a shit?
Well, he should care, but
he doesn't.
Yeah, money sometimes, very unfortunately, takes priority over your brain cells.
This sport is never healthy. Every time anyone, be it Michael Bisping, be it the anonymous dude in the first fight past prelim, just chose money over health. That's what this
true.
is. It's a sport for desperate ass people.
It's true, and I think we've talked about before. We see a lot of fighters come up sort of from hardship, growing up like homeless or just growing up with not very much, and then they end up finding themselves like in a cage one day. Where, although I think the thing with that, the part I disagree with is that, sure, getting knocked out, no matter the circumstances, isn't healthy for your head. But in MMA, we can take a lot of precautionary measures, and having Bisping fight last weekend was none of that. Like, we can try and make MMA as safe as possible. There are certain things we can do: have fighters take breaks, not have fighters, take certain fights, etc., 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 and make sure they're healthy, brain scans, etc. But none of that was happening with Bisping.
Boo. I say boo to all that. A safer sport. This is a sport of savagery. They should all fight 3 fights in every single night. It should always be a tournament. There should be no medicals. There should be...
I know you're joking, but don't say that, because people will see this and think, and take it seriously and think, oh, that's a good idea. No, it's not.
I'm being dead serious. When I saw that, when I saw the heavyweight Grand Prix, I was like, do it all in one night.
You can't campaign for something that will cause in multiple deaths.
I don't know. I feel like well, you're right.
You're a terrible human.
You know what's worse though is like, and more likely to kill anyone than anything I just advocated. Rapid weight cuts that happen.
Again, I hate weight cutting. Get rid of it.
4 people on the sport. So come on, man. We got to talk about when Michael Bisping got knocked out. I bet Michael Bisping's got knocked out in a training camp in a fight that he's been in too. Shit happens in MMA. He'll be all right. Michael Bisping, and you know what? Michael Bisping, for whatever reason, I don't know why I believe this, but I feel like he'll be a dude who is decently, he's not going to be a stuttering old man at the age of 45. He's going to kind of have his wits about him until he's like, an old man.
We don't know, though. He's taken a lot of damage. He's been
I'm making
down more than any fighter in UFC history.
He's also fought more fights than anyone in UFC history. So, weigh the stats a little bit. I will say this. If there was Vegas odds on, will Michael Bisping be more of an old stuttering fool? He's pretty much already, an old bag of gas. I would say that he's going to hold it together more often than not. Vegas, you should put CTE odds out there. That's a good idea.
That is just terrible. That is so bad.
I love when I get you morally indignant. It makes me so happy.
Well, when we're talking about a sport like mixed martial arts, you have to have a bit of moral value.
No, you don't. In fact, being a fan of mixed martial arts proves that you have no real hard set morality. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about on this card? I mean,
no, not on this card. Let's move on and talk a card just a day, I think, before this one. We had one championship going down. I don't. What was it in Singapore? Yeah, it was in Singapore.
Sure.
Ben Askren getting the job done. He finished Shinya Aoki in the first round, I think, within a minute. I did not watch the fight, so I can't really speak as to how good he looked. But considering he defeated a guy in a minute, it's good. But again, kind of like the Gastelum fight, if you were expecting something different or extremely different, I don't know what you're doing. Shinya Aoki is a blown-up lightweight taking on one of the better welterweights in the world. It's 185 pounds. So, this was pretty much expected. No surprises here. It's a good way to go. Ben Askren is, of course, stepping away from the sport. Good on him, stepping away on his own terms to focus on family, coaching, etc., etc. He got paid well at one championship, as far as we know, and so I don't know if he really needs the money to live comfortably for the next little while. Plus, the coaching stuff will help as well. So, I mean, I can't fault him. I don't think this is it for Ben Askren. I mean, retirements in the MMA just don't happen. They're not actually a real thing. They're just extended hiatuses. So I will see Askren back, and I would think you agree. But no. if we don't, then
I don't think we see Ben Askren fight ever again. Wow. Yeah. I think he's got to go all the way to Singapore to be fighting people and all this shit. I think he's just kind of over the whole situation too. And Ben's always struck me as a dude who kind of has his wits about him a little bit, like, has a plan. He's always like, guy. Yeah, exactly. It seems like he invested his money well.
And proof of that is that proof of him being smart is he's the only fighter to ever hang up on me during an interview. That's what you call a smart person.
What did he hang up on you about?
I've probably told you this story before.
Oh, tell me again, because I didn't remember.
I asked him some, quote, hard questions, I suppose, and he wasn't a fan.
What hard question did you ask him? Come on, like
this was like a year and a half ago, so or ish. So I don't remember too well, but
you're ducking this question. Answer.
No, I think it was something I was asking about Herbert Burns. At the time, Herbert Burns, the brother of Gilbert Burns, UFC lightweight. Herbert was really unhappy with one championship. He was at Evolve in Singapore, and then I think he left Evolve just to train with the Black Zillions with his brother. And sort of I asked him about that because we know Askren sort of has that deal with Evolve.
Yeah, that he finishes his training camps over there. Yeah, and all exactly. That stuff. Yeah,
and I was basically asking him about that.
Yeah, you're prying too deep into his finances, Papa. Of course. How hilarious is that Ben Askren hung up on you about that at the ripe age of 17? That's actually that's fantastic. That's a good story.
Probably I don't remember when that happened, but definitely not 17. But yeah. So, anyways, back to back to his career.
Back to him, and we've been talking about it. Yeah.
Back to him not hanging up on me and actually fighting. Do we fault him or do we praise him for staying at one championship for the better part of the end of his career? He's been there for a number of years.
I actually praise him not just for staying at one championship and maximizing the financial potential of his career, but also for being a dude who can just constantly like stick it in fucking Dana White's face. Like, that's such a hard thing to do in this industry consistently, and he's there just like, giving the dude a middle finger. Like, his whole career is everything that he did after Bellator is a giant fuck you to Dana White, which puts a smile on my face. Because I kind of even like Dana White for his weird stupidity that he embodies, but like, you kind of just want the sport to be a wild batch of chaos, man. So it's fun to see him as an agent of that chaos. Beating up Shinya Aoki and whatever, like Zabistan, Baba Davidoff, and Kastama, like all these random dudes that one FC gets in wherever to come take an L. It's like, yeah, I'm not too excited to watch those fights, but I do kind of just like the whole. And I think he actually did the smartest thing he could have done for his career. Like, no one liked Ben Askren before one championship. No one liked him. Not a single human being could be found that actually enjoyed Ben Askren. When he went to ONE FC and became this kind of like cult anti-figure and this like a fuck you to Dana White, that's when people started being like, hey man, I'm into seeing Ben Askren fuck people up and like, let's stay up late. And like how much the hardcores love staying up and watching some weird Asian promotions. So, it kind of endeared him to the hardcore of the hardcores. And also that just happened to be the people who actually would always be curious about how well he would fare if he ever actually fought the most elite competition in the world.
Yes. I can't fault him at all. I mean, I think what he has done at one championship is very smart business-wise for his career. He took like no damage pretty much. And he just beat up guys that were not on his level whatsoever for a large chunk of cash. If you think that's a bad move business-wise, career-wise, financially, you're a moron. Like that.
Well, here's the deal.
It doesn't make him a super popular fighter. It doesn't make him a star.
There's two separate things, and they're just both very valid. This isn't a complicated issue. You cannot fault Ben Askren for picking money in easy fights where he would take little damage and make a boatload of money. And you also can say as a fan that was just some shit that you weren't interested in.
Oh, of course. I don't wake up early to watch Ben Askren fight and get excited.
You didn't even watch this one, yeah. So it's like whatever. I would actually love to see him fight GSP.
To be honest, if I wasn't at school, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot different than I don't know, a top UFC welterweight.
Yeah, I would actually like to see him fight GSP.
I was going to ask that. There's actually a little bit of intrigue there. I don't think it ever happens because I don't think Askren comes back soon enough when GSP's maybe still around. Because Askren, you probably won't come back within the calendar year. I would think, next year. GSP's not going to be here for like 2 or 3 years. I don't think so. No. I don't think it happens, but I think that's a good fight. Like, it's a good fight for St. Pierre. It's a good fight for Askren to see where he's at because GSP's on.
The only way it would happen would be if GSP demands that it happen. That's a giant fuck you to Dana White.
Yeah, GSP literally has to say, I'm retiring or I'm fighting Ben Askren. What do you want to do?
And really put a WME
Dana has
over
to
the
sign
barrel.
Ben Askren because he'd rather sign Askren than
make the money because they need the money. I would actually love for that to happen. Once again, Ben Askren, I enjoy and love him in MMA exclusively as an agent of chaos.
Yeah. To our point about Askren, like, we're praising him for saying with one, it's a good move. But with that said, there are still a lot of unanswered questions. We see Ben Askren destroy no-namers and think he's a great fighter.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
he is a good fighter, but we really don't know how good. We don't know how he would look against someone like Robbie Lawler or Jorge Masvidal or his teammate Tyron Woodley, Rory McDonald, Gegard, if he was to step up. We don't know any of that. And we probably never will, because Ben Askren in the UFC, that seems very, very unlikely. So there are still unanswered questions. We can't just be full of praise and say, "Oh, it was smart." Ben Askren, great career. We gotta be realistic and know that, hey, we really don't know how good Ben Askren is, and there's always going to be that asterisk for his career.
Yep.
That's it for Funky.
That's it for Funky. Unless you want to repeat yourself more about
repeating myself, but changing a few words here and there. So it's all good.
It makes everyone want to die. So let's talk about 218, man.
Yes. Before
something actually interesting.
I want to go to the Ultimate Fighter 26 finale. There's nothing to break down, so this will be super quick. Don't roll your eyes. So who do we see in the main event? So we got Roxy versus some other person. And then we have Nico Montano on the other side. Does Roxanne Modafferi fight for the title on Friday?
Hold on a second here. Let me just check. Hold on. Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
I don't either, but I do think Roxanne...
If anyone wants... I'd like to see Roxy win, if anyone wins. Because she's from the old school. We like Roxy. She's got a great personality. If anyone's going to win it... but honestly, I just don't care.
No,
I don't even know who's fighting in the thing. I stopped watching this season before I started it.
I haven't seen a single minute.
So why the fuck are we talking about it?
Because there's a UFC title. Like, if this wasn't for a UFC title, this is some random Invicta fight in the middle of the main card.
Belts
I know that's what you say, and I
nothing.
Let's
talk about something we're really excited about. Let's talk about.
Hold on. If this was not for the UFC flyweight women's title,
you already said
this would be in the middle of an Invicta card. No one cares, and no one really does care. There's one big point about this whole card I want to say. This is the same thing for every tough finale. I still don't understand why the UFC waits till 2 days before a card to announce who's fighting for the inaugural title. We don't know who's fighting on Friday, 3 days from as we speak, for the inaugural UFC 1 flyweight title. That's a big deal because UFC titles still apparently matter according to the UFC.
I'm sorry. Did you want me to respond? I took a small nap. Right below
I guess I better repeat myself again because you didn't hear what I said.
Oh my God, bro. No one cares. No one cares.
I'm not talking about the fight though. This is really...
No one cares about the belt. No one cares that the UFC's belt has value and that the belt's losing value. No one cares.
I'm not talking about the belt. I'm talking about the fact that we don't know who's fighting on Friday, 3 days from now.
Yeah. Yeah, no one cares. Even if we did know, it wouldn't change. That no one cares.
I kind of disagree. I think knowing
No one watches the
fighter
show.
A is fighting fighter B is better than blank versus blank. This is terrible promotion-wise for the UFC.
Well, the television show is a terrible promotional device. Even if we did know who those fighters were, we still wouldn't care. It wouldn't change.
We care more just because we don't actually know who they are, but
nah.
I think
don't we know like the final four-ish?
Well, we know the final three, but we still don't know if it's Roxy or the person she's fighting.
See, no one cares. No one cares. I don't care. I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like, okay, yeah, I don't care about the show. I wish I knew more about the show I don't watch, that you don't watch, that no one fucking watches, that watches this show. You're getting me upset about goddamn the tough finale.
Okay.
What's ever even happening on it? Nothing's going on, and you're like, we gotta talk about the third because I got a smart boy. No, man. No one gives a fuck about tough. No one will ever again in the history of humanity give a fuck about the Ultimate Fighter. We gotta stop talking about this shit immediately before I fucking lose my shit.
I was gonna say until that happened, before you rage quit the whole show, let's talk about UFC 218, Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. That excites you a bit more, I would think.
Oh my good lord, yes. Yeah, can we? I'm gonna rename this card to just like back in the day they would do like UFC 59. Comeuppance or whatever it would call it. We could just call this one UFC 218 Violence. On the undercard, just like random undercard fights, there's just like little treats sprinkled in. I mean, there is also some dog shit. We were watching Magana's fighting Amanda Cooper.
That's like the one dog shit fight.
Tamper your expectations there. But like, we got Paul Felder's fighting Charles Oliveira. We got Alex Oliveira fighting Yancy Medeiros. Why is Yancy Medeiros on that fight? We got Michelle Watterson and Tisha Torres. There's a lot of cool things sprinkled in there. Oh my God, yes. Tamar.
That's a great
That's an amazing fight. That's a great fight. Close is an undefeated prospect. That's kind of like that young generation of 155 pounds, and we don't know kind of how it's going to go. Are these guys going to spring up and become real contenders? Are they going to just drop off and kill each other?
I think Tamar, this is more speculation than anything. I think Tamar has what it takes to go far.
I like where your head's at on this. I would actually say that he definitely has the potential to be a guy who's like in the mix at like the top 10, top 15 for like a decent time in his career. And that's a hard thing to do at 155 pounds.
Yes. And that's why we might be wrong completely.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just we burn through people all the time. And then there's some, there's some typical UFC shit that we've seemed to kind of gotten used to nowadays. Like, I don't know really who, like Alan Chowder against Justin Will. Oh, I know Justin Willis. He's the dude from is he the dude from the Tuesday Night Contender series?
No, Crowder is actually.
Oh, what do I know Justin Willis from? Maybe nothing. Maybe I've just gotten him confused with people in the past.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been in the UFC in some form or another.
He's had one fight.
Okay, there you go.
You definitely don't remember him from his one UFC fight, but you probably don't remember him at all. But
no, I mean, I remembered him as in exactly the form we just witnessed on this show. I looked at his name and I said, that seems vaguely familiar.
Pretty common names, Justin and Willis. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. What's his nickname? Is his nickname game strong?
Big Pretty, not bad.
Hey, I like where that's heading.
Yep. So,
he used to be in the World Series of Fighting.
Oh, really?
Big Pretty. Come on, you don't forget a name like Big Pretty. I might have like.
Aren't you thinking of the Bellator guy? Well, the guy who does a lot of motivational talks.
No, not Justin Wren. No, not Justin Wren.
Big Pygmy. Yeah. Okay. Whoops.
No, I think I went. This is a pointless story, so I'm going to just end it. I think I actually watched World Series of Fighting prelims one time. That's the extent of the story. Isn't that fascinating? I actually once did that. That's depressing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
what fights do you actually want to talk about on here?
Well, 218 has a lot of good fights. It has a lot of good fights. Let's run through the FS1 prelims. Just a name. That's it. We'll skip Fleece Harry, Courtney Case, although for women...
I'm not doing predictions. I refuse to.
Okay. So we already touched on Tamer, close. I think the winner goes a bit far. I think Tamer has a better chance in that one. I think Alex Oliveira does bad things to Yancy Medeiros, but Medeiros is tough. He comes to fight, and so he could make it closer than it really should be.
I don't know. I think Yancey Vidal's going to take like a shin to the face. Unless Yancey's like really turned over a new leaf. Yancey's really got to show some new shit here. Because, you know, Brazilian Cowboy is like a fucking lethal dude.
Yeah. The FS1 headliner, Charles Do Bronx Oliveira.
That's not a real thing.
I know. This is a good one. Right? This is really fun.
Yeah, this will be a great test, I think, to see where Paul Felder's really at. I think people have always wanted Paul Felder to be more than he is, and he's faltered a lot in the UFC. You know, I think he had a string of maybe even 3 losses in a row. Maybe it's only 2 losses in a row. I really have to rack the brain on that one. It was Edson Barboza. It was Ross Pearson. Oh, no, and then he won. He won the next fight.
Almost lost to Josh Berkman.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, there's been some shaky things in there. Lost to, you know, Massarin Duba, the legend himself, Francisco Trinaldo. Yeah. But Charles Oliveira is like consistently considered an elite striker. I think that the one thing people aren't really considering is that like this is the downswing of Charles Oliveira's career. So I think it's a perfect time of a rising fighter and in a kind of declining fighter. And let's see where they're both at right now. Can Charles Oliveira kind of float in that bottom half of the 15, top 20? Is Paul Felder ever going to make something of himself that can make him really a contender and like take bigger fights? Great kind of meetings of an ascending and descending star. Oh God, I think you've gone, robot. Robot. His name is Nicholas. He's a robot of robot proportions. Dear Nicholas, what you think of Paul Felder? I don't think he wins this fight. He'll probably get KO'd. If I was going to move on, I'd talk about Tisha against Michelle Watterson, Karate Hottie. And then the Hottie, Karate Hottie, will probably get double-leg dog match in 3 rounds of boredom, and Tisha Torres will crack her. But yeah, this is bad matchmaking in my opinion. I don't know. Like we're doing like the 2 cute girl things. I guess that's a thing, but whatever. It looks like Nicholas. If everyone's still alive, it looks like Nicholas and Winnipeg Internet is atrocious. So it's just me right now. Happy to have y'all. We'll keep talking about this goddamn card. Tisha Torres, Michelle Watterson. Like I said, Tisha Torres is gonna clap this girl. I'm not excited for this fight. I know other people are supposed to be excited for this fight, and I know it's supposed to be a thing people are excited for. But I'm not falling into this hype. That's some just old bullshit. It's gonna be some boring fights because I think it will be an interesting fight if Michelle Watterson can get some offense going. But she's undersized for strawweight already. And Tisha Torres is like a wrestling-heavy kind of chick, so I feel like this is just bad news bears all over for the Karate Hottie. Nicholas, you back with us?
I'm back. My Winnipeg Wi-Fi in the winter, especially, is bad.
An avalanche just came and knocked over, one of the things. I literally, I thought that like I was cutting out, so I just started like goofing around and singing and like doing and like this is all on the stream. So
nice. I can't wait to go back and watch that later.
I talked about. I finished talking about Paul Felder against Charles Oliveira. We started talking about Tisha Torres. I think it's a Torres whitewashing here. I think that she wrestles her, and Michelle Watterson's undersized. Do you disagree?
I don't know. Like I've always thought Watterson maybe is better than she is. I see a lot of people on Torres, a lot of the gambling people that know a lot more about these fights than I do. A lot of people are on Tisha Torres. I tend to disagree. I think Watterson might take this one, but. Although then I'm starting to doubt myself just because I'm starting to wonder what do people see in Torres that I'm not. So Torres might just be better than I think. She's a good wrestler, but I mean she's so inactive. I think Watterson might be able to capitalize on that. So yeah, I mean I'll go Watterson, but it's a close one.
Yeah, I mean Tisha lost to only Rose, right? I think that might be right.
Yeah, I think so. Well, she's had maybe a couple other losses, but.
I don't think so.
Oh no, just one. Yeah, you're right. Rose Emilis.
It's like a steel trap, Nicholas. Like a steel trap. Okay, and now the
big ones.
The main entree of violence. Yes. Eddie Alvarez against Justin Gaethje. This is
fun. This is my most anticipated fight. Definitely, probably for like the latter half of 2017, maybe.
This is a fight for the hardcores, man. I love when. Hardcores will consistently talk shit on the UFC because it's kind of like a hipster thing to do. And honestly, the UFC is kind of fucking god awful. but they're the only people capable of making things like this happen. You're not going to get Eddie Alvarez against Justin Gaethje anywhere else. And I know that's silly to say because both of these people were signed to like different promotions elsewhere. But like that even emphasizes the point. Like that is the great power of the UFC, this unifying umbrella. Yeah, is it a fascist state of bullshit corporate MMA? Of course it is. But having everybody under this umbrella does also allow us a beautiful thing every once in a while.
I mean, eventually most of the good, especially exciting fighters find their way under the UFC umbrella. Like the UFC... Like Bellator is a different story because they're direct rivals, and Bellator is not just going to say, "Hey, have Michael Chandler." They're not going to do that. But yeah, we see. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We see a lot. Most of the good fighters in UFC.
I mean, I think people who are smarter than us have broken down this fight technically. I think people.
We don't need to break it down technically. It's going to be a war. It's going to be one of the best fights all year, I think.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, who's you got?
I think Gaethje.
I saw Gaethje too.
I saw one or two people saying, "Hey, don't look past Eddie Alvarez," and don't. But I think Gaethje runs all over him. I think Gaethje stops him probably in like.
I'm not overlooking him, but I think he stomps his fucking face to the curb. And
I do. Like I know Alvarez brings a ton to the table. He is a really talented fighter. He comes to scrap too. But Justin Gaethje is one of the best lightweights on the planet. I truly believe that. Not because he's the best striker or because he's insanely skilled and technical. It's because he has insane pressure that destroys everybody. That everybody melts under Justin Gaethje's pressure. He does not take a step backward. He can be losing a fight, and just simply because he is in your face the entire time, look at Michael Johnson in July, he will win that fight. Gaethje has a really good chance against Conor McGregor simply because of that reason. He's not the better striker against McGregor, but he could just get up against McGregor. He could take him down even. So I think Gaethje does big things here.
If Gaethje wins here, do you think they make the Conor McGregor fight?
No, because I still think Ferguson with the interim title. That's the fight we still want to see. But man, I dig McGregor versus Gaethje sometime.
I don't know. I think Justin Gaethje against Conor McGregor might sell more pay-per-views than
No, it doesn't sell more pay-per-views. I don't think because only the hardcores know who Gaethje is. So.
Oh, come on. When we're talking about selling pay-per-views to human beings, like the level of Gaethje is the level of Tony Ferguson, and Gaethje has a better highlight reel. Gaethje has a better highlight reel, and that'll sell it to more casuals, much more.
It might sell like 25,000 more, but at that point,
no. When everyone goes, because they're already hooked, right? So you just got to reel them in all the way, because you got the Conor hook in their mouth. And they're going, "Hey, yeah, I like Conor McGregor, but who the hell is he fighting?" And then you just have a commercial of Justin Gaethje, destroy dude, like wild fight, and they go, "That fucking guy's insane." They don't know who anyone is, right? They're casuals.
I think the big thing would be here. Oh, this guy pressures everybody. He destroys everybody. Does he destroy the king that we all think Conor McGregor is? You have a good point. I think he'd do a bit better than Ferguson, but maybe not as much as you expect. So we're both taking Gaethje. Henry Cejudo is taking on Sergio Pettis, flyweight division. Pretty good fight. Was supposed to happen earlier this year. Sort of like the overlooked fight, I think, on the main card. A lot of people talking about the women. A lot of people talking about the main and co-main, and of course Alvarez Gaethje. I think Cejudo Pettis might be sort of the one that stands out as maybe the lesser fight, but it's still a great matchup.
It does a matchup. I don't know a better matchup that you make at 125 pounds right now. I think Henry Cejudo has turned over a new leaf since losing to DJ and has become a really interesting and dynamic fighter. I wanted to put a statement win together right here against Sergio Pettis so we see that rematch. I really right now think in the 125-pound division meeting, anyone who's fought at 125 pounds, Henry Cejudo has the best chance of beating Demetrius Johnson. And I'd like to see that rematch.
Yeah, I mean, Cejudo, he is, as you said, he's so much better. He's improved even from his second last fight, which I don't recall what it was, but then he knocked out Wilson Hayes. He actually has good power now. There was a while when he wasn't taking guys down, but kind of boring fights almost. He didn't seem to have much knockout power, but man, his style's different. He's really good now, and he always was, but he's a big threat, and I still don't think he's a too big threat to DJ, but to anybody else, you're going to have your hands full when you fight Henry Cejudo. So I got to go Cejudo. Pettis is really talented too. He's a good striker, but not so sure he's on the level that of Cejudo.
Yep, same call. Alistair Overeem against the Predator, baby. Francis Ngannou. Everyone's been foaming out the mouth to see Ngannou, and just like there's so much expectation around him. We've already crowned him the next contender. Basically, we just kind of want to see if he's gotten better. God, I don't know. I'm guilty of it too. I can't help but just.
Well, we've talked about Francis Ngannou way probably back almost to the MMA Junior Radio days. Like this guy's been on our radar ever since his debut. Luis Henrique, second round TKO, boom! This guy's going far. We both said it probably.
Yep.
You know,
fucked up Curtis Blades.
Yeah, it's really cool to see him.
Started coming to America.
Remember when we were talking about the Derek Lewis fight? Like it's kind of crazy, but he's almost quite a bit past that now.
Yeah, right. We talked. Yeah, I think he's levels above Derek. Just like he's an athletic freak, and that's what you want your heavyweight champion to be, some weird athletic freak. And I hope that him against Stipe is like actually like that people respect how good of a clash that's going to be. You got the hardworking American boy, the firefighter, and just like the down home guy. And also we got the race element here. We got white versus black. This is everything you want in fucking sports fighting, people. This is awesome. This is just letting beasts fight each other in a cage. It's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of the whole racial stuff, it's going to separate the U.S. more than anything. It's going to be what destroys the United States of America. We're saying how great a fight it is, and then all of a sudden U.S. just blows up.
No, you know what? It would actually it would do that if he was if Ngannou was actually from America. Now, if like he got really American over like the time period, maybe they have one great first fight, and then like the rematch like simmers for a little bit. It takes like a year, and like Francis Ngannou moves into LA and just starts like being real LA, and everyone's like, yo, Francis is our man, and gets a black audience behind him. Oh man, then be the middle of the country against the West Coast. That's an awesome, I gotta be a promoter, baby. I just put this together, just invent these lies. None of this actually has to happen. You just fake it.
I love talking about Ngannou versus Stipe, but man, Alistair Overeem has a good chance here. I know he's the underdog, but we can't, get ahead of ourselves. We can, but we shouldn't. Overeem has a good chance here. I think Francis Ngannou knocks him out. Ngannou is a serious threat against anybody, including Miocic, and Alistair Overeem doesn't have a chin. He's sort of what the fighter who got me in the sport, and I've always respected him for that reason. But when you're fighting Ngannou, I think Ngannou probably beats almost every heavyweight, maybe except for like Kane. Stipe probably gets him 5 out of 10 times. Ngannou is really good. I know we've only seen him fight Andrei Arlovski pretty much, but I think he's the guy who's getting better. He just made the record at the UFC Performance Institute for hardest punch, I think worldwide.
That's just some bullshit.
Well, yeah.
He's the first person to be tested under that metric.
And then
there's no universal test of come on.
Well, even if that isn't true, he still hits really hard. So
he's a 260-pound beast without an ounce of fat on him. Of course, he hits people really hard.
So are you going
yeah, of course I'm going to Ngannou. Alistair Overeem is going to play that outside game, but eventually, I just feel like he's going to get touched up. Ngannou looks like a dude who takes naturally to striking as well. So, he's probably learned a shit ton.
Main event time, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, number 2 for the UFC featherweight title. Are you intrigued by this? To me, it's still a good fight. Two of the best featherweights.
It's a great fight.
But, I still just have
it's the 2 best featherweights in the world fighting each other.
In my head, and I know it's going to happen. And I don't see it going that much different. I think Holloway knocks him out. I think Aldo's chin is starting to go down. I think overall Aldo is going down as a fighter. Holloway's on the up. This guy is one of the best fighters in the UFC right now. The biggest intriguing part is his coach, Pedinero, said that Aldo, I'm referring to, will use leg kicks. That is sort of the tool we've all forgotten about as far as Scarface goes. But I can't believe it till we see it. Like, if he goes out there and leg kicks Max Holloway, I won't be shocked. But he hasn't used leg kicks.
Time out. Let's dispel some myths. Like,
he landed 2 kicks, leg kick, or he attempted 2 leg kicks against Holloway
because of what Max Holloway was doing. You can't just say he didn't try to do any leg kicks. No, there's openings and there's setups for leg kicks to be performed.
Okay,
Max Holloway took that away from him in the game. And all the other fighters have taken it away from Aldo too. This isn't rocket science. People like like learn a little bit about fighting, just a little bit if you're going to watch it consistently. That's all I'm asking. Like other fighters found out that his leg kick game is devastating. It wasn't hard to figure out. He stopped people with leg kicks. So other people started being like, shit, man, we need to have a fucking stance that takes away the leg kick. And they started implementing it. It's like, this isn't rocket science, man. Also, don't forget that after this first fight happened, you came on this very podcast and talked to me about how Jose Aldo, that it was kind of fluky that Jose Aldo got knocked out and that he was in control of the first 2 rounds and was really making stuff happen. And I told you that, Max was setting traps and was going there. I think this is a really competitive fight. I feel like everyone does this in MMA. As time goes away from the first original fight, they really fucking forget everything about a fight except for
nothing else.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
And they forget all of the nuance that was involved in it. Jose Aldo won the first 2 rounds of that fight. He could not fall into Max Holloway's traps. What if Max Holloway, what if that was his best trap against Aldo's style? What if Aldo adjusts his style? There's so many different layers and intricacies that could happen in this fight. This is the 2 best 145-pound fighters in the world today, and they are going at it, and nothing could make me happier. Ooh, is Frankie Edgar? Yep. These are the 2 best 145-pound fighters, including Frankie Edgar, who slides in at number 3 clearly. Yep. And that should excite you 100 times out of 100. If not, get the fuck out of being a fan of this sport.
All right, let's go down in skill level a little bit, and that's it for 218. By the way, it's going to be a great card on Saturday. Let's go back to Bang-Kuntz. This is a fight that happened 2 years ago today. That is something we plan to talk about this prior to me realizing that this is the 2-year anniversary of the legendary Tae Hyun Bang decision win over Leo Kuntz at UFC Seoul, South Korea, November 28, 2015, headlined by Bendo Henderson versus Jorge Masvidal. Internet meme in the making. It's gone down in history, and for all the wrong reasons, pretty much. Tae Hyun Bang earlier this year was accused of essentially taking a deal to throw his fight. He was basically approached by Korean mob, the Korean mob, and they said, "Hey, we'll give you all this money if you lose. We'll bet on Leo Kuntz." There was a huge line swap. The UFC approached both fighters before the fight. If something looks weird in the fight, don't assume you'll be sort of looked into. Bang ended up sort of changing his mind. He agreed to throw the fight, and all these people bet all this money, and then he won. He won a split decision, and now he was just the other day sentenced to 10 months in jail for these fight fixing allegations that he was ultimately convicted of. Crazy. This is a big deal.
Yeah, just some quick facts. He was paid $92,000, or the American equivalent of $92,000. And the bookies bet $1.7 million. Like, that was going to go unnoticed by people in the sport. It's like $1.7 million wouldn't get bet on the entire Seoul Fight Night card, probably. And they're going to have that happen on one fight. Like, that's going to...
Well, especially when it's like a prelim fight, no one really cares about it, other than the fact that it's
normally, maybe there was like a 6 figures bet on that fight. Maybe. You know what I mean? Well, it's hard because there's like offshore books and all this kind of crazy
shit. But still,
shit.
No one cared about this fight.
No one even knew it was happening until
as far as American too, like, it was at like 2 a.m. or whatever. So yeah, so really, this is a big deal. Like, this never has happened, I don't think, in UFC, in the UFC history.
And they are ignoring it completely, which is crazy.
Well, no, it's not surprising because the UFC ignores everything. So don't be surprised by that.
I am surprised because I think it's like an easy way for like the UFC to just step up and be like, we are anti this and we condemn all kinds of actions like this.
I think they should have, but they I'm not surprised because they seem to always forget about, making,
but it's a weird
clearing their name.
He didn't actually end up,
throwing the fight. It's weird. That's probably why he's not going to jail for 5 years. That's why it's only 10 months, because he agreed to it, but he didn't actually do it.
I don't know. I wonder how bad.
It's basically like threatening to assault someone. That's still a crime versus assaulting someone.
Yeah, I guess so. I wonder how bad South Korean jail is, though.
Yeah, it's probably not. It's better than North Korean jail, but
I mean, yeah. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that South Korean jail is probably better than U.S. jail.
Yeah, maybe. I
Michael Berry
I have
like
no
put together a
idea.
company.
I mean, South
I'm gonna dig
Korea
into
is
this.
it's it's a what's the word? It's like it's a good country. It's a developed country. So
Good guys
developed.
over there at South Korea.
Yes.
We really like those guys.
So I think the biggest thing, though, Michael David Smith, who is the managing editor at Pro Football Talk, so he's not in MMA business at all, but he tweeted out the other day when this was announced. If you want to know how far outside the mainstream the UFC is, just think about how huge a story would be if an NFL or NBA or NHL or MLB player were imprisoned for taking a bribe to throw a game. That happened in the UFC this weekend and got zero mainstream media attention.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the sport isn't mainstream, and it makes me happy. Every single day we can hold on to it. It's never going to be mainstream. I shouldn't even worry about it because
it won't be. But I'm sort of on both sides. I agree with Michael in the sense that this definitely shows that the UFC isn't nearly as mainstream as those other sports, because even though it was a lower fighter who wasn't in the main card or main event, and no one really cares about Tae Hyun Bang or Bang-Kuntz, but it's still a UFC fighter, and even if like the worst NFL player did this, it would still get some attention. Like the headline would be NFL player did this. Here, no one cares as far as mainstream media goes. So, but there are, on the flip side, sort of going against what Michael said. I mean, again, it was a lower level fighter. It was on a UFC Soul card, where as far as American, the North American audience goes, no one really watched this card because it was on at 3 a.m. And so I think, and also it happened 2 years ago. Like, it didn't just happen.
Yep. Lots of time in between it.
There's things on both sides where I think, Michael's right and wrong. I think it shows that the UFC isn't nearly as mainstream, but I think there's some factors that if this was like, a main card fighter fighting on a pay-per-view card, 2 weeks ago, that'd be a way bigger deal. And if it actually happened, if he threw the fight, Bang did not throw the fight. He just said he would. There's a big difference.
And made a bunch of organized criminals in Seoul, South Korea lose $1.7 million. I don't know. I feel like he should have just thrown the fucking fight. Yeah, of course he's probably going to get murdered in jail. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. One other thing about this. Does this make the UFC look bad? And we sort of mentioned that.
Does.
We mentioned, hold on. I think there could be a debate here, because I think it makes the UFC bad, but I think the fact that Tae Hyun Bang got jail time sort of makes it look almost a bit more legit. And hear me out on this. It sounds crazy, but I think because if he had walked away a free man, I think people would look at the UFC as a joke. Even though the court system and the legal system has nothing to do with the UFC did not decide whether or not he would go to jail. I think fans still look at it as connected. Oh, UFC fighter threw a fight or said he would, didn't, no repercussions. Then people think the UFC, no one cares about it. It's, it's nothing. But the fact that he's getting big consequences, 10 months in jail, I think people look at it and say, hey, the UFC is taking it seriously, even though it wasn't the UFC that decided that.
I don't know. I think it stinks to stink, and the bad smell of this thing is just, it's just dirty business. It's like how Japanese people turned on Pride just because the Yakuza, association. There wasn't anything ever proven or anything, but it just reeks of bad. I think it's just bad news. You don't want bad news.
More than anything, the fact that, as we said, the UFC didn't address it, I think that probably makes them look bad more than anything.
And I think that points to the fact that, this is not a thing that you're like, hey, we could spin this. It's not that bad. No, it's bad. That's why they're ignoring it.
Let's move on to Gets It Doesn't Get It. Our first one, it goes to Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier recently tweeted out, he was responding to someone, I think, probably going against the Volkan Ozdemir fight that apparently will still happen. We'll get to that. And he tweeted out, sarcastically saying, Alexander and I sold 200,000 pay-per-view last fight. We really blew that bitch up. And, I think he gets it in a big way. Like, Daniel Cormier knows his self-awareness in the sense that he knows he's not a huge UFC draw. He knows that he's not the biggest star in the UFC. He knows he's not Conor McGregor. And he doesn't, he sort of has that, he's able to have fun with himself. Like, he just put out a tweet. He was talking to Ariel Helwani, and he used his own crying after the Jones fight as a GIF. And so I think everything sort of put together, Daniel Cormier, like, he knows what his level is, and he understands that very well, more than a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters think they're the biggest thing in the UFC, and they're not.
Yeah, no, Daniel Cormier has always got it for his ability to kind of understand where he is in the grand scheme of UFC, and just understand like how MMA is. You know, that's an important part of all this as well. Yeah, you know, sure, he gets it.
Next one.
Do you want to continue maiming this wonderful segment?
Yes, I'd actually like to.
Good, go ahead.
So the Bellator bracket was announced for the Grand Prix heavyweight tournament. This is big news. We have Ryan Bader versus King Mo. We have Matt Mitrione versus Roy Nelson. We have Rampage versus Chael Sonnen, and we have Frank Mir versus the one Fedor Emelianenko. Does Bellator get it for these matchups? Are these sort of like what you would put together, or are they not on the side of not getting it because they could have put together better matchups for the opening round?
Yeah, I think they actually did kind of get it. If you notice, there's clearly like an old timers like side of the tournament brackets, and there's like the young people who are most likely going to win this.
Well, it's heavyweight and light heavyweight. A light heavyweight fighter has to be in the finals.
Yeah, which is fantastic because all of their names are in light heavyweight. They want big names in this, and they've guaranteed that big name matchups will happen the whole way, basically. They didn't they didn't see them as like the people you would think are likely to actually win this tournament, which is the smartest thing they could have done.
I don't agree that the light heavyweights are the bigger names. Like Chael Sonnen is an exception, but King Mo, Ryan Bader, even though Ryan Bader is champ, no. I mean, they'd much rather much rather have Fedor versus whoever in Fedor and now I can't even think of the two sides, but like they much rather have something like Fedor versus Roy Nelson than King Mo and Fedor.
But these are like, people who are going to fade out and probably aren't even going to defend it beyond the tournament. Do you know what I mean? This is all just kind of a sinking ship for them. If not a sinking ship, it would actually be amazing for him if someone like one of the legends could actually win the belt here. But I'm thinking they probably want to end up in the championship making a name, giving Ryan Bader a moment in the sun, giving a King Mo a moment in the sun where he can beat legends, where he can get a win and put over the newer guy
longer than Fedor. So
that's what I'm saying. So it's set up so that a young, or not even a young guy, but just like a guy who needs more cachet. Yeah, a guy who needs more cachet is making his name over a legend, and that's how you get this done.
And Bader as a 2-division champion wouldn't be a bad thing either. But ultimately, I think they don't get it. I don't like how it's set up. I think there would have been better matchups. I think Fedor versus Chael was a must for the first round. But yeah, I mean, anything goes. It's all gonna work out. It's all good. So not a huge doesn't get it, but a little bit. Next one, Rory McDonald legitimately wants in on this tournament as an alternate.
Yeah, gets it. 100% gets it, because if it doesn't happen, he just like did the most Rory McDonald thing possible, talking about fighting heavyweights like an insane, psycho killer. Awesome. Everyone gives him the cachet and the credit for it. And if it does happen, it's going to be against one of like the middleweights and like the light heavyweights and the smaller guys, and they're just going to slide him in there as an alternate. And that's awesome too. Most likely this never happens because they're going to if he wins the belt against Lima, they're definitely not going to let him into the tournament. Do you know what I mean? They need main events. They need, things they can build a card around. And right now, Roy McDonald is like a major piece in a thing that they can build a card around. And he's probably one of the biggest pieces that they can do that with. So, yeah, he's a huge feather in their cap. It's never going to happen, but it's a great story. So well played, Roy McDonald. You get it.
Well, I really hope it happens because I think Rory versus, Roy Nelson would be very intriguing just because, like, Rory is so much better skill-wise, but he's also so much smaller, obviously. Like, he would be going up against guys almost 100 pounds heavier. That is insane. It's not going to happen because, I don't even think the commission would probably sanction it. But, man, if this was in Ryzen, you bet it would happen.
No, you just do it in Texas, and Texas will sanction it.
Yeah, I guess it has to be in Texas then. That's the only commission. But yeah, I think Rory gets it. I mean, this is a great move. Even if he's not going to get in, throw your name in the hat. Why not? It makes him a more fan favorite. He's just he doesn't give a crap. Like, he'll do anything. No time limits, headbutts. He wants it all, and it's great.
Smart move. You ready for the dumb questions, or we got one more?
One more. Dana White said this evening at UFC Launcher or whatever, some media scrum, that Volkan Ozdemir, despite getting arrested a couple weeks back, is still going to fight Daniel Cormier for the title.
Fuck yeah.
In PC's next title shot.
Yeah, like, why do we need people who fight in a cage to, like, not have arrest records or, like, not be involved in, like, active assault cases? I don't hold any kind of moral qualms about that. That's the right decision to make. It's the only fight I want to see. Come on. Volkan, no time. Let's lose the no time thing. You Volkan, you wizard.
No time's fantastic. No.
Oh, that is the worst nickname of all time.
But he uses it so well as a gimmick.
No, it's a terrible gimmick. What's the gimmick? Explain to me the gimmick.
That he has no time to fight, and his fights are so short, and the way he's marketed himself using no time, like if he just called himself no time and almost for no reason, then no, that's a terrible nickname. But the fact that he uses it so well, it works.
You basically just said he's using it well by using it well.
That's fine. Let's move on.
It's so boring.
But yes, I do think I think the UFC does get
Volkan, the Wizard of Ozdemir. It sells itself. Come on.
I think the UFC does get it. I think this is, you could see both sides. I think this is really close. I was flipping back and forth because I think they wouldn't get it just because, having a guy who got arrested 2 weeks ago fighting for the title, not a great thing. But yes, this is cage fighting. This is prize fighting. So who really cares? And I think they do get it because they need big fights. Like, if they didn't have DC Ozdemir for Boston in January, I don't know what they would have on that. Like, there's rumors Stipe Kane. I don't know if that's going to happen. Kane gets hurts all the time. So they're sort of running out of big fights. They need this one, even though it's not going to sell well, but they need DC Ozdemir just to fill the gap of another pay-per-view card. So I think they get it. I think it's close, but I think they do get it.
Yeah, listen, a 200,000 selling pay-per-view is not a failure. It's a good thing.
No. Ready for the dumb questions?
Yes. Dumb questions. That's it. Oh, okay. First dumb question this week comes from @TwitterShit. Hey, Liam, what's happening, brother? He says, Weather Talk, please. Also putting in a request for Weather Talk. He says, is my mate just stupid or a danger to himself and others for saying that Cerrone is going to get a 170-pound title shot by the end of 2018 just by stepping up in the last minute, just like Bisping did?
I don't think we see it happen. I think Cowboy's on the way down.
Well, remember, the question is his friend just stupid or is his friend a danger to others?
Oh, probably just stupid.
I'm going with just stupid. I'm not willing to exclude the possibility that he's a danger to himself and others, but I will say that he's probably just dumb as shit. Next question comes from the Reverend himself @Rev Stevens. He asks
Stevening, right?
Whatever, Stevening. Fuck it. It is 3 years in the future, and you're sitting around a burning barrel for warmth in what looks like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Looking back,
Winnipeg.
Looking back, who in MMA has been the most self-destructive? John Jones, Conor McGregor, and he gives us like an insert our own name option.
I mean, John Jones by a mile, especially if you're just going Conor Jones. Conor McGregor, I don't care if he was really in a bar fight last week.
Yeah, he hasn't done any self-destructive shit.
The guy makes more money than any UFC fighter ever has. The guy's the biggest star. He's the biggest Irish person alive. The guy he's a celebrity, and no other fighter can say that. He's not. His career isn't done because he's done cocaine and because he's been in hit and runs and done illegal substances, perhaps. John Jones has. And John Jones has ruined his career somewhat.
Oh no, John Jones ruined his career. He fucked it up. It was the drug test failures.
I say somewhat because John Jones probably will still fight again somehow. Like, just knowing the UFC, knowing John Jones, they'll find a way to get him back in there. But
yeah, oh yeah, John Jones is going to fight the UFC again. And honestly, in a post-apocalyptic future in 3 years, when looking back on the history of MMA, the person who had been the most self-destructive will have been us for watching. Next question comes from Paul Sag. He asks us, what type of shampoo does Clown use to get that volume and balance? Asking for a friend. Whatever the wife. The real secret is don't wash it all that much. That's the real secret. I'm going to tell you that.
But speaking of hair, people will realize you don't got a beard.
Yeah, I shaved my beard off. I was kind of getting a rash like over here on my right cheek, and then I was like, the only way I could really treat it was like by shaving it off entirely. This is about like 5-6 days growth, something like that. Maybe it's been a week. I don't know. So it's coming back slowly but surely. I don't know. Maybe hopefully by next week it'll be boss and in charge.
You'll have to cut your hair off and just tape it down to your chin. And
I'm gonna cut my hair off soon, just so everyone in Twitter. Yeah, it's just like too long. I'm gonna bring it back to like shoulder length.
Okay, you're letting us know so we can emotionally prepare ourselves.
Exactly. It's gonna be devastating for you personally. I know.
Next one.
Last question is also from Twitter shit, and it's the final question of Dub Questions. Liam asks, what has Coker Sakibara not got one of Gaddafi's former elite female guards on a main card yet?
What the hell does that mean?
You don't know who Sakibara is?
Oh, of course I do.
Oh, you do? Okay, sorry. But you don't know who Gaddafi is?
No.
Yeah. Well, you know.
You have 30 seconds. Who is Gaddafi?
Oh, Gaddafi was the guy who ran Libya before the U.S. government, or their internal coup, air quotes, overthrew him. He was kind of a weird dictator. But yeah, I don't know why they haven't got... That would actually be dope if we did like, hey, former female soldiers on weird cards, from weird countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is that the show?
Yep, that's the show. See you later.
I guess Andrews are running right now or something?
I gotta go, actually. There's someone ringing the door.
See you, Andrew. All right, that is it for episode 139 of the MMA Circus. Thank you all for watching. We really do appreciate it. Whether you're watching live right now on YouTube, you're watching the YouTube replay, listening on Bloody Elbow, iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Google Play, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Player FM, Overcast, or Podcast Addict. We all appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you come back next week. Rate us, review us, subscribe, leave a comment, go like this YouTube video. If you're watching on the YouTube, go subscribe to our channel and check out my other interviews on this channel as well. Check out Before the Battle. Tomorrow night, I'll be doing episode 4 of Beyond Combat. I'll be having on MMA fighter Adam Corrigan, who trains out of Team Alpha Male. He's also he delves into stand-up comedy, so that's going to be super awesome to talk to Corrigan about his little side gig as a stand-up comedian. Andrew, you're back. Would you like to plug whatever you got going on?
Like always, middleeasy.com, greatest website in all of MMA. We just came out with the podcast. A bunch of the Middle Easians are talking a bunch of shit on MMA, so check that out. And follow me on Twitter.
Are you doing that or no?
I'll be a guest sometimes.
Okay. Alrighty, that's it.
That's it. Follow me on Twitter at the Clown Kid. Peace.
Check me out on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. I have a couple interviews coming up in the next couple days. Actually, tonight I'm talking to Alexander Volkanovski in 12 minutes. As of right now, we will be talking about his UFC Sydney win from earlier this month. Also talking later tonight to Bilal, remembering the name Muhammad. He also won on the Sydney card, got a win over Tim, the Dirty Bird Means. Going to be good to catch up with him. Plug Beyond Combat, all my interviews, and Beyond Combat and Before the Battle. I think that is it. Bloody Elbow, as always, rate us, review us, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you like and you don't like. And that is all. Thank you all for listening. We do appreciate it. For Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, my name's Nick Baldwin, and we're out.
What up, Sherry?